What's going on, you guys? Here I am, Nick Johnson, back with another video, giving you a sports update in terms of what we have going on around the world in the world of sports, especially in the NHL with the National Hockey League, the Stanley Cup playoffs, as we're already in the conference final setting. And I'm going to also give you a lot of NBA action as a result from last night's action of the second round of the NBA playoffs, especially between the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics, and the Los Angeles Clippers against the Denver Nuggets, and so on and so forth. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you the results of yesterday's game between the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics. The Celtics came away with a 111-89 drubbing of Toronto, of the defending champions, as Jaylen Brown led the way with 27 points, and Kemba Walker with a much better effort than he put in game four, with 21 points, and Jason Tatum added 18 points of his own to go along with 10 rebounds. So it was a much more collective effort for the Celtics because you had 6 players scoring in double-digit numbers. That included Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Daniel Tice, Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, and Brad Wanamaker, all scoring 10 points or more. So it was a collective effort from the Celtics last night compared to what they put out in Game 4. And for the Raptors, let's see. The only one that panned out, well, the only 2 people that panned out for the Raptors during their embarrassing loss were Fred VanVleet, who only had 18 points, and Norman Powell, their 6th man, contributing only 16 points. While everybody else from Pascal Siakam to Marc Gasol contributed little to nothing. Yeah, Siakam he was basically consistent getting outworked by Jason Tatum, especially in the postgame, whereas Siakam was not a traditional big man in the game. And Marc Gasol, especially at this stage in his career, has basically become an afterthought at this point in time. And he had no points. Literally 0 for 4 from the field in 14 minutes of action. I mean, he only got 5 rebounds as a result. I mean, he may have left the game early due to injury. I'm gonna have to check that out. And only 14 minutes of action, so he may have missed the rest of the game due to injury. So, and Serge Ibaka, his backup center, finished with 18 minutes of action, but got 7 points and only 4 rebounds. So, Toronto, it was just like a lackluster effort all the way around, especially with the fact that with Pascal Siakam, their starting power forward, getting outworked by Jason Tatum. It was like a bit of an undersized big man getting outworked in the post and just not protecting the rim as they should. And Marc Gasol, at this point in his career, he's very old, and he's becoming like an afterthought at this point in time. So, and with that being said, Boston has a 3-2 series lead over the defending NBA champions, and we'll look to close this series out most likely tomorrow night when the game starts at 3:30 Pacific. So do tune into that as well. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what type of counterattack that Toronto would have against the basic style formula and team effort from the Celtics, because the way the Celtics have run their offense is basically that, about it, like a little more fast-paced, a little more conventional, traditional style of basketball. Whereas Nick Nurse and the defensive wizard that he is just couldn't find a way to keep up with the ongoing offensive attack and the fast-paced style of the Celtics. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what the Raptors can counter that with. But other than that, it's kind of looking dire for the Raptors at this point, especially with the effort that they put in, and it was kind of bad. So, yeah, so Game 6 between Toronto and Boston will be tomorrow at 3:30 Pacific, so do tune into that. Now we're going to shift to the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. Yesterday's Game 3 action in the Western Conference second round matchup. The Clippers came away with that one on top, 113 to 107. It was like a really entertaining game throughout. The Nuggets had like a 5 point lead with over 6 minutes to go in the game before the Clippers was able to make a all-around rally to come back and take the lead and never look back throughout. So they finished out with a 6 point victory. Yeah, with a 6 point victory over the Nuggets to take a 2-1 series lead over there in Florida. So Kawhi Leonard with 23 points and 14 rebounds. But the biggest star of the game was Paul George, who had 32 points. Yeah, leading the way with 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. We're also going 5 for 7 from beyond the arc. So yeah, he was 5 of 7 in 3-point attempts. So that's a really, really good performance from him. For a guy who's known for struggling big time in the biggest of postseason moments. But this one is a really big time effort for him. So with that being said, the Clippers have a 2-1 series lead over the Nuggets, who made a late rally themselves in the dying minute of the fourth quarter, but their comeback attempt was sealed after Kawhi Leonard blocked the Nuggets point guard Jamal Murray's dunk attempt with his middle finger. Like, literally blocked Murray's dunk attempt with his middle finger, which is incredible. So, and that proves to you exactly why Kawhi Leonard is hailed as arguably the best two-way player in the game, and possibly the best superstar ahead of 35-year-old LeBron James for the LA Lakers, who, by the way, will be playing tonight at 6 o'clock p.m., which is tonight's Game 3 between the LA Lakers and the Houston Rockets, but I'm going to get into that in a minute. As for the Nuggets, it was a good effort. They had a good effort most throughout. They just couldn't maintain that lead when they needed it the most. It was a big night for Nikola Jokic, who had 32 points and 12 rebounds to go along with 8 assists. But he also turned the ball over 7 times, and that's something that needs to be addressed. It was a down performance for Jamal Murray, who only had 14 points, but was also a putrid 5 of 17 from the field, so not a good night for him. And Michael Porter Jr. was helping clean up the slate as much as he could with 18 points. So the Nuggets had kept the train rolling for most of the game before the Clippers made a late rally to take the lead and never look back, like I said. So it was a big win for the Clippers, and they have a 2-1 series lead over the Denver Nuggets, and hoping to take a commanding 3-1 series lead tomorrow night for Game 4. So that'll be interesting to see what's up. Now, today's games, you're going to feature Game 5 between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat, as the Bucks once again look to try to stave off elimination after barely prevailing in overtime Sunday evening against the Heat, despite the injury to Giannis Antetokounmpo, their eventual winner of Defensive Player of the Year and their reigning MVP. Chris Middleton really stepped up big time with 32 points in that game. So we'll see what the status will be for Giannis to see if he'll be available. Because last time I heard yesterday, he was questionable to play in today's game against the Heat, in a point where they're facing elimination for the second time in this series. So try to hopefully force a decisive Game 7 by winning the next 2 games. So Game 5 will start at 3:30. Heat, Bucks. Miami has a 3-1 series lead. So if Giannis is unavailable, then once again the Bucks are going to have to look to a collective effort, because they showed that once Giannis went down, they played more aggressive. They were much more a complete unit than we all expected them to be when Giannis was on the floor. And now it's coming to a point where many people feel like Giannis was the problem. And that's very concerning for a superstar of his caliber that wasn't able to figure out a way to get the train rolling against a very good Miami Heat team, who's now labeled as a dark contender with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo leading the helm. And this is a Heat team that really made really made a lot of headlines in these playoffs. They swept the Indiana Pacers in the first round. They hold a 3-1 series lead over the Bucks and hoping to looking to close out the series tonight. This evening against the Bucks to advance to their first Eastern Conference Finals appearance since 2014. You know, the days of the big three of the Heat with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. So, if the Heat wins tonight, the Bucks will go home, and then the Heat will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, and will await a winner of the Raptors-Celtics game. The outcome of tomorrow's Raptors-Celtics game in Game 6, where Boston has a 3-2 series lead. And also tonight, Game 3 between the LA Lakers and the Houston Rockets. The Lakers came out with a really better performance and collective effort than they had in Game 1. Sunday night in Game 2 with an 8-point win with a 119-107 victory. A much-needed win, and hopefully looking to take a commanding 2-1 series lead of their own against the Rockets team that has had the number one defensive unit throughout these entire playoffs and have had all-around shooters around James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And speaking of Westbrook, he did not have a good night at all in Game 2. He was 5 of 18 from the field and was 1 for 9 from three-point range. And he only had 10 points. And this is the guy that the Houston Rockets made a big deal to send Chris Paul and a plethora of draft picks to the Oklahoma City Thunder to bring him in to help finally get James Harden that official co-star that he wanted and help build a team around, because you don't know how long Houston's championship window is going to be open. And with the fact that James Harden, for all as he's done throughout the entire league, just hasn't been able to come up in the biggest of playoff moments. Yes, he had some good playoff moments here and there, but not in the biggest of moments. You know, I remember 2 years ago when the Rockets had Chris Paul and they were up against the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Game 5 in Houston, they made a statement against the Warriors, especially Chris Paul had a big night before he left that game due to a hamstring quad and missed the next 2 games. They took a 3-2 series lead, lost in Game 6 in Golden State, which was expected, but then Game 7 came about and everybody was turning to James Harden to see if he can prove himself why he is among the elite best of the best. But not only did he not show up, he had a horrible night at the three-point range. He was 2 for 13 from beyond the arc in that Game 7 against the Warriors that had Kevin Durant as well. And now they have a really complete team. They have all-around shooters from Eric Gordon to P.J. Tucker to Jeff Green to Danielle House. And I think I also mentioned Eric Gordon too. So, yeah, I already mentioned Eric Gordon. And Russell Westbrook, his fellow co-star, his former teammate when they were together with the Oklahoma City Thunders almost a decade ago. But yet, now, Harden is now facing a dire situation where if he doesn't come out on top in this series, then people are going to have more reason to look at him and say, this is why James Harden is the most overrated, because he just couldn't produce in the biggest of moments. You know what I'm saying? Because when it comes to the NBA playoffs, everything's different. Everything is highly different from the regular season. It's all about the stakes of winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy in the summer. Well, now this fall, since the whole COVID pandemic took over. And people are going to expect you to come out on top, produce well, and become like the elite best of the best. And prove yourself why you deserve to be in this position. And so far for Harden, he just really hasn't proven himself as much as we all expect him to. So, tonight is a pivotal game for both teams, the Lakers and the Rockets, who are trying to make a statement win to see who will have complete control of the series. So, that's going to be a game I'm going to be looking forward to. Next up, we have a little NHL action to talk about, especially in last night's Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. between in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Eastern Conference Finals between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders. And the Lightning won that one in an absolute drubbing with an 8-2 win over New York. It was just a complete drubbing throughout. You had goals from the Lightning coming from the likes of Braden Point, Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, Yanni Gourde, Nikita Kucherov, and Andre Palat. Especially 2 goals each from both Point and Gourde. So that was a complete drubbing throughout. As Tampa is trying to make its first Stanley Cup Final appearance since 2015, while the Islanders, in their first Eastern Conference Final appearance since 1993, are trying to reach the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 1984. So the way that the Lightning have had their schematic scheme set up with John Cooper at the helm, great puck possession, high puck movement. You have speedy guys from the top 2 lines, and you have a steady defensive unit in Victor Hedman and Ryan McDonough, among else. And of course, the young stud Mikhail Sergachev, who can go a long way as being one of the best defensemen in the league. And you have the all-around skilled, speedy forwards of Yanni Gourde, Braden Point. They're the superstar Nikita Kucherov, Andre Palat, and the two-way forward Tyler Johnson. And you have like a really legit unit that can compete for a Stanley Cup title. Now, the only missing piece to that is their longtime captain, Steven Stamkos, who has yet to make his playoff debut due to a lingering back issue that he might have sustained before the NHL resumed its season. Rather, resumed by just jumping straight into a 2014 playoff format. So he has not been active in this playoffs because he has yet to make his debut. And he's already been ruled out for this series against the Islanders, so his best chance to return would be in the Stanley Cup Finals, but it's become unlikely that he'll be ruled out of the playoffs entirely. So, and if that's so, then that'll probably be a big blow for the Lightning. But based on the way that they have played so far, it looks like a non-issue to them in our retrospect. So. And the play of their goaltender, Andrei Vasilevsky, has really carried the Lightning to this point as well. So you have great offensive scoring, steady defensive unit, and all-around great goaltending, and you can go a long way. Now, the Islanders, with head coach Barry Trotz at the helm, and he already has Stanley Cup championship experience, got it coaching the Washington Capitals to a Stanley Cup title 2 years ago. And he's coaching an Islanders team that's really trying to make a name for themselves after losing their longtime superstar John Tavares in free agency last summer. So with Jordan Eberle and Matthew Barzal leading the helm, you have like a really solid unit that really defied the odds and really played like a real cohesive unit en route to making its first conference final appearance in 27 years. But the way they played last night doesn't seem to be that case because, like I said, it was just an absolute drubbing and terrible performance on the Islanders' part. So it'll be interesting to see how they will bounce back in Game 2 tomorrow night with the Bubbles up in Canada. Now, tonight will be Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. And the Stars already have a 1-0 series lead over the Golden Knights after a 1-0 shutout performance in Game 1. As Golden Knights head coach Peter DeBoer has stated that the Golden Knights deserve everything that they got because the way they played in Game 1 really states how bad they were on Sunday night. Despite the fact that they only given up 1 goal throughout the entire game, they had numerous chances throughout the entire game to at least tie the game up. And they even outshot the Stars in the third period 13-4, and yet they still couldn't find a way past the Stars' ferocious defense and their steady goaltending in Anton Khudobin. Anton Khudobin was really solid, was really good, in that Game 1 victory over Marc-Andre Fleury, who was just as good as Kudobin was in that game. And John Klingberg, the Stars defenseman, had scored the only goal for the Stars in that game, which was in the first 2 minutes and 36 seconds of the opening period. And that was about it the rest of the way. The Stars, with their steady defense, and despite limited offensive production from Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, they still made an interesting statement win over the Golden Knights to take a 1-0 seriously. But it'll be interesting to see how the Golden Knights will respond tonight in Game 2, because this is a trip to Stanley Cup Finals that is on the line here. Now, the Stars are trying to reach their first Stanley Cup Finals since 2000. They haven't been there since they made back-to-back trips in the finals in 1999, in which they've won. That's their only title to this day. And making it back there again in 2000, which is their last appearance. And they lost in 6 games to the New Jersey Devils that time. So they're trying to get back there for the first time in 20 years. So that's 20 years ago. While the Golden Knights are in their 3rd year of existence, are trying to make their second Stanley Cup final appearance in 3 years. And this is their 3rd year of existence, and they've already made their 2nd ever Western Conference final trip in their 3rd season of existence. I mean, they already made it to this point 2 years ago in their 1st season of play, and now they're trying to get back to the promised land, the Holy Land, which is the Stanley Cup Finals, 2 years later. I mean, the way that they have the roster set up, from Mark Stone to Max Pacioretty, William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, into the great defensive unit of Shea Theodore, Alex Martinez, and the goaltending tandem of Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner, who got most of the bulk in these playoffs over Fleury. And this is the first time I've actually seen Marc-Andre Fleury play in the playoffs. I mean, he may have played in the qualifying rounds. Not the first round, but maybe in the qualifying rounds, but that probably wasn't the case. But Fleury got the start in Game 1 of the series. Like I said, lost 1-0 against the Stars, but I'm waiting to see if Fleury will be able to get the nod in the net once again for tonight's Game 2, to see if the Knights have a chance to even the series at 1 apiece. So it'll be interesting to see where this one goes. And yeah, that's basically it. It was really good playoff action all the way around. And of course, the MLB trade deadline has passed, but there's little to talk about baseball at this point, other than the Yankees have been slipping as of late, losing now 14 of their last 19 games. The Dodgers have the best record in all of baseball. And yeah, but that's a video that I'm going to make for another time. So that's all I have to talk about. NBA playoff action is really getting interesting. And we already reached the conference final stage of hockey, the Stanley Cup playoffs. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and hit that bell notification where you get my daily notification updates on my newest videos, and give you more sports updates in the near future. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, who you rooting for in hockey, and who you betting in the NBA playoffs, to see who will win the Larry O'Brien Trophy this fall. So let me know what you guys think. And that's all I have to say. This is Nick Johnson, and I'm out. Peace.